If you've ever played Minecraft before, then you've definitely done this. You've trapped them in a tiny dirt box, ripped them away from their home, and shipped them off to some foreign land. You take away their identity, their profession, their freedom, all for some emeralds and mending books. You've built entire structures and mechanisms to manipulate them, exploit them, and profit from them. And if you've played Minecraft for long enough, you've stopped thinking about them entirely. So I ask to all the oppressors of this forgotten species, do villagers deserve human rights? It sounds absurd at first because they're only just lines of code. A collection of pixels that have big noses and walk into walls. They're not real. Yet look at how they act. They trade with each other, they get scared, they celebrate with fireworks. In their simple, programmed way, they live in peace. But us? We're practically gods in their universe. Our possibilities are endless, and yet we immediately turn to slavery and profit. This revelation has sent me on the path to prove that villagers deserve to be treated like one of us. And in this video, I will do just that. So without further ado, this is why villagers deserve human rights. But before the video gets started, I wanted to note that we are right on the cusp of 1,000 subscribers. I mean, we're only a few away, so if you could just take a moment to hit that sub button, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. First, let's start by going more in depth into the lives of each villager. On the surface, they seem like very simple creatures, but underneath that big nose and wide stare, villagers are one of the most complex mobs in the entire game. They have strict work schedules and wake up every morning at dawn and sleep every dusk. They socialize and they even gossip. If a player harms a villager, other villagers will spread the news, and over time your reputation will either improve or worsen based on your actions. They have memories, they're able to remember which player healed them from zombification, they remember which trades you've made, and they react differently if they've been hurt or scared. They show fear from zombies and illagers, and they cheer for you when you have saved them from a raid. So if these villagers are able to act like people, if they react to fear, form social bonds, and remember kindness, what is it exactly that they're missing? What is it that makes someone morally important? For utilitarian philosophers like Peter Singer, it comes down to whether the creature displays sentience, or the ability to feel pleasure and pain. Not intelligence, not language, not species, just the simple question. Can it suffer? Can it enjoy its life? Singer argued that if an animal can suffer or experience joy, then its well-being is worth moral considerations. To ignore that, just because it's not human, is what he calls speciesism, or the belief that humanity is morally superior to all other creatures. So let's apply Singer's beliefs to villagers. They show fear, seek safety, and definitely prefer peace. They have goals that they achieve each day. All are things we associate with basic forms of consciousness. Now, obviously villagers don't experience pain in any real sense. They're just ones and zeros, lines of code. But should that matter at all? If something mimics a moral being well enough, should we treat it like one? Maybe at the end of the day they are just bundles of code. But how often do we treat real animals or real people in this way? What does how we treat them say about us? If Peter Singer asks, can they suffer? Immanuel Kant asks, can they reason? Can they act according to moral law? For Kant, moral value means more than just having feelings. It comes from autonomy and the ability for them to choose their own actions based on reason. One of Kant's most famous principles is, treat people always as an ends in themselves, never merely as means. So how does this apply to villagers? Kant would probably say that villagers aren't moral agents, as they don't reason or choose their actions freely. They just follow a programming. So maybe to Kant they don't count. But Kant also believed that our treatment of non-moral agents still reflects our own moral character. He warned against cruelty to animals, not because he believed they were equivalent to us, but because cruelty made us worse as a species. Kant wrote, He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. So maybe the question isn't, do villagers deserve human rights? Instead, maybe it's, what happens to us when we stop treating others, even fictional, simulated beings, with dignity? Even in this Lego video game, Kant still might ask, are you acting from duty? Or are you just using everything and everyone around you? Are you building a world? Or are you just exploiting it? So far, we've questioned if it's possible for villagers to suffer, or if they deserve more dignity based on how we treat them. But philosopher Parfit adds a whole other piece to the puzzle, one that challenges what our preconceived notions of what a person even is. Parfit believed that identity, our idea of a single, conscious self, doesn't really matter in the long run. What matters instead are if a creature shows things like memory, continuity, and psychological connections to others. If a creature is able to remember who they were yesterday, acts with intention today, and imagines a future for themselves, that is what turns something into someone. Now, villagers might not have rich inner lives, and big dreams of their future lives in woodland mansions, but they definitely do have preferences. They change based on their environment, they remember the past, and they adjust their behavior based on them. Parfit argued that the lines between people, animals, and even simulated beings are thinner than we think. So if a being shows signs of a stable identity, has memories, desires, and a role to fulfill in their world, at what point should we start asking questions? What if the only thing separating you from the villagers is the complexity of your code? What if this complexity is what makes you the one worse at living in harmony? Maybe the thousands, possibly even millions of villagers trapped in our torturous prisons aren't the actual ones who've truly lost their freedom. So, with all that being said, I ask again, do villagers deserve human rights? No, they're just code. They don't think, or feel, or dream, at least not in any real way. But maybe that's not the point of this discussion. Maybe the point is that, in a world where we control every little aspect of everything, how we treat the powerless still matters. We build the cells, we set all the rules, we design the farms, and determine their fates. But in doing so, we become prisoners too. Not prisoners of a cell, but by the confines of our own mind. We begin to see everything through the lens of efficiency, optimization, and control. Everything becomes a means to an end. So when all is said and done, and when no one is watching, and it's just you, the game, and a silent village, who are you going to choose to be? Because maybe the question isn't, are villagers people? Maybe the question is, are we?
Nah guys, I'm just kidding. I'm still keeping my villager trader hall. I mean, look how many emeralds this is getting me. I'm getting so rich. I love slave labor. Woo!